plastic and they can be a little expensive, like Lexan and stuff like that. So you don't want to waste it. So we have our thing drawn out. We're going to, first off, we'll save it. Let's just save it to the desktop. Let's call it base. Okay? So this is saving it as a ViaCAD file, not as a DXF, not yet. Then we have to say, my mouse, file, export, and I can pick the file that I want, or type of file I want to export out to. Like, what's that one you use, Adam? Don't you use, what's the 3D one?
The 3D?
Is it IGES? Is that one of the ones you can use?
Well, the ones that I use are
Step?
STL.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so this is a 2D program, so I didn't know if it was... So I can pick between, I can make it just a BMP, I can pick a JPEG, I don't even know what step is, but the one I'm interested in is DWG or /DXF. And I say, what version? Is it R2010, like the latest, or one of the latest versions of AutoCAD, one of their standards? But I found that this R12 is really the most interchangeable format. It's an older format from, say, 10 years or so ago. So anyway, I just use R12. So I'm saving it as a DXF, R12. Okay. We'll put it same place, desktop, save.
Can you export the PDF?
I think you can print as a, I think, hang on. I think there's a way to do...
A Word file?
PDF.
Maybe when you print it, I think there might be a way to save.
I see, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, there's other ways to do that if this won't do it. Yeah.
Mike, do you have to take out the extra lines or anything? I mean, when are you do that?
You know what? Let's do that just to be safe. It shouldn't make... let me go back to... Well, no. Here, I'll leave them there just to show you. I'll leave them there, so you can see what happens. So all right. So now we got our. Let's move them over here. We got our ViaCAD file, and we got our DXF. So now the next step in my tool chain then is to use a thing called Kanban, which this is a freeware program. It's from a guy in England called 10 Bulls. But anyway, he makes a freeware version of Kanban. Then he makes a paid-for version that has some more features in it. Features that I don't use, a lot of 3D stuff and things that I don't really care about. So I just use the freeware, and it's perfectly fine. So I'm going to start that up. Actually, I've got it on the desktop here. So this is the part where using your CNC machine can be frustrating, because you have to take a lot of things into account. Where's your mouse? There we go. You take a lot of things into account when you are using this software. So you'll see, so here's our blank screen. So the first thing we're going to do is open that DXF file from the desktop. Let's go down here. Okay. So there's our DXF file. We can't really see it very well, but our construction lines we put in there are there too. Now, I have to make sure I don't say cut on the construction lines, because it's going to try to go to infinity that way, right? So that's not good. So we're going to zoom in on that part there. I think we can do it this way. There we go. Okay. Let's pick this line. Oops. Let's pick this line and delete it. And the reason I'm doing this, it'll make the zooming go a little better. I'll take that one and delete it. Okay. So now if I say view, zoom to fit, it'll show the thing properly. Okay. If I left those construction lines in and said zoom to fit, it would have been too small. Right? So anyway, just a little minor thing. So what we're going to do now, first off, the first thing I want to cut are these 4 circles. So I'm going to select each of those. Oops. And this program's a little weird. You've got to hold down Control to select multiple things, not Shift. So I want to cut those 4 circles. So I'm going to do, actually I'm going to do something else first. I forgot. I'm a little ahead of myself. I have to do a thing called converting to polylines. It's not really important what it is. It just means you're taking it, if there's any little, what this process is going to do, if there's any little tiny gaps in between the lines, it'll fill them in. Because some CAD programs will leave microscopic little gaps between the lines that you can't really see, and they don't really matter as far as a CAD drawing goes, but as far as CAM, it does matter. So first thing I'm going to do is convert to polylines. Then I'm going to join with a 0.01 tolerance any gaps. So just to make sure there's no gaps in it. Now I want to select the 4 circles. I'm going to tell the software that we're going to do a 2D5 profile, 2.5D profile, which means basically just a flat cut, okay? So I'm going to say that. Then it's going to give me some options, and I always start at the top. It's going to say, what depth increment do you want to go in? So depending on the type of material, the type of bit, and the speed you go, you don't want to go, say you've got a piece of wood like this, you know, a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch piece of, you know, pine, you don't want to go straight down and start cutting out this cross shape, right? You want to do this in multiple passes. There are CNC machines that could do that. Mine can't. Mine's not strong enough, so I have to go multiple times around the outline to do it. So we'll just say that the material we're using, we want to do 0.1 increments. The next step is to say, what is the target depth? And I say my target depth, the final depth of the piece, for example, might be, just say that's a 1/2 inch, it's a 1/2 inch. But I don't want to stop at a 1/2 inch. I want my last cut to be a little past a 1/2 inch, so it'll actually be free, right? So I'll just say my target depth is going to be -0.6. Okay? Because we want to go 1/10 past that just to get that last little bit. So then same thing for this. I'm not going to bother going through the whole process to cut the squares out here. I'm just going to show you the main. So same deal. Actually, let's go back to this one. There's one more thing to do. Come on, go back. There we go. Why did that not? And then save that. Here, let me do that again real quick. 25.1. 0.6. Okay. The next thing to tell your machine is, how fast are you going to do this cut? So my machine, in free space, will do 70 or 80 inches a minute. It'll right across. But depending on the material you're using, you may want to slow down a bit, otherwise you're going to snap your bit off, right? So we'll just say we want to cut at 25 inches per minute. And then you also tell it how fast you want to plunge down in. So once again, depending on the material, you may want to go faster or slower. We'll leave it at 30, because just going straight down is usually okay. It's when you start moving that you have a problem. Then you have a thing called a clearance path. All that means is, if I'm cutting something out, if I'm cutting these 4 circles out, and there's something in the middle of my piece mounted there that's 1 inch high, I want to have a 1.5 inch clearance path, right? I don't want to go boom and bump into that piece of whatever it is there. Or in this case, being as this is flat, I can have just a small clearance path, so I'm saving time. I'm not going all the way up and then over and then all the way down. I'm going up, over, down. You know, I'm going much quicker. So that's what your clearance path is. And that's usually the first mistake you make, is people leave that at 0, and it just goes and drags across the thing and leaves a big scar, you know, that kind of thing. So we're just going to say clearance path, we'll leave it at 0.25. And there's some other little minor things you can go through. And then, but the last one is, you tell it the tool diameter. I use the same 0.0625 tool for everything. I found a great source of these little bits at Electronics Exchange, and I bought like 60 of them. And they're like 25 cents a piece. And they're going to last me forever. It turns out each one will last me 2 or 3 months. I didn't know that when I bought them, right? So, anyway, so you tell it the diameter of the tool. I'll just buzz through that same thing here. Cam 2D5 profile. So I'm going to go 0.1, target depth, -0.6. It's obviously the same thickness. Just for fun, I'll say cut that one at 55. It doesn't really make any difference, you know. Same clearance path, same tool diameter. There we go. Right, so here's my missing profile, so let's take that one out. See, I did that. Okay. So what's nice about this is, obviously you want to cut the circles for the post before you cut the main piece out, right? If you cut the main piece out and then try to do, it's all going to be loose, right? It's not going to be right. But you might make a mistake and have something out of order. That's okay. You can just drag things, or actually right-click and say move up. There we go. Move up. So now you can see I'm cutting that big circle, then the little circles. So I say, well, crap, that's not right. I made a mistake. So I'll just say right-click, move down. So now I'm cutting the little circles and then the big circle. So you can arrange the order that things are cut. Okay? So we got that done. The last thing I do is say, I want to see what my cut widths are. So when I do kind of the test here, I say generate toolpaths. It shows me that. So what it's actually showing is, let's zoom in here a little bit. It's actually showing, see, this edge right here is our circle. This is the, you can't hardly see that dark green line, is the center of the tool. So it's showing you the width that the tool is cutting, okay? And then the last thing you want to check is, you want to make sure that you're not got something totally wrong. So if we twist it like that, we can see, here's all the multiple steps it's going to take to cut that piece out on each side. So what you'll be able to spot is, you'll see like, for this last cut, you might have something way down here and you'll say, oh, I made my target depth -6 inches instead of -0.6. So you always want to look at it in this kind of a 3D way to make sure you don't get something wildly out of place, right? What happened to Robert? Are you okay? There was like a noise. Okay. So you want to make sure that nothing's out of whack, right? You want to make sure nothing's out of whack. So look at it in that 3D way. Everything's cool.
Question?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
With something like this, you also want to make sure your tool is on the right side of the line.
Yeah, there's an inside and outside cut.
Okay. I don't know if I got...
Let me show you. Hang on.
I don't know if you went over that. I might have missed it.
No, I didn't. Actually, I just kind of glanced over that because it's not really that. But let me show you. Let me zoom in. Zoom on the XY. Zoom the fit. Okay. So you see right there where the red line is?
That's your cut.
I can't zoom in with it highlighted, but get back down here. All right. So I'm cutting on the outside of that circle. There's an option to cut on the inside of the circle. It's your preference. You know, some of them go one like counterclockwise, some go clockwise. You know, there's minor changes there. But there might be times where, if I know,
for like your bolts holes, you want those.
Right. Exactly. So in that case,
so you want them cut on the waist side.
Correct. So I would say, oh, I made a mistake here. I need to cut not on the outside of the circle. I want to cut on the inside of the circle. And then let's regenerate those tool paths, you see. So now my hole is exactly as I measured it. So you just have to keep those kind of things straight. You know, it won't make that huge of a difference. It'll make 0.0625 of a difference. But you know, and that's the kind of things you learn as you're cutting things out. Nobody gets it perfect the first time. It just takes forever. You know, you make a lot of mistakes and waste a lot of material, but once you get it down, it's pretty good. So we've spotted our mistakes. Everything's cool. We simply say File, Create G-code, and on my machine, I need to have it named .nc. It's just a text file. You can give it any name you want, but my Ubuntu likes it to be called NC for numeric control. And I say Save. So I'm just going to go out of here, go back and grab that text file, put it over here. So we always end up with three things: the CAD file, the CAMBAN, or the exported DXF file, and the G-code file. And if we open that up, we'll bring that over here. If we're real smart, we can go in and edit these things. You know, we can say, you know what, I want to change my clearance path. I want to go 0.5. So I can go in and manually edit these things, if you know what you're doing. But probably not a good thing to do. Because if you get it wrong, suddenly now you've given it a command to go 16 feet that way, and unless you've got emergency stops on your machine, you're in for trouble. Okay. So, but just people that are curious, they can look at this. We can see here's all the things to create those two circles.